What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, back to MovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, right now, in this moment, we're going to celebrate Black History Month because that's what we do. And I'm going to do it vicariously through a quasi-white savior movie named Glory. This is directed by Edward Zwick. It's Academy Award nominated, and before I jump into it, if you could click like and subscribe, because while everybody else is running away from DEI, I would love for us to run towards it, because as a blind person, I benefit from programs that would qualify under this that are being eliminated, and also my rights are being taken away through, anyway, that's another day. But back to Glory. The 1989 movie. This movie turned 35 last year. I probably will label this the 35th anniversary of Glory. It's close enough. Makes it seem more prophetic, to talk about the 35th anniversary of Glory. And this is a movie that my close relationship to it is, for some reason, I remember watching it at least 3 or 4 times as a kid and then never watching it again. I don't think I've seen this movie since I was 16. So, but I watched it a bunch for some reason, really close to each other. As a kid, I was really obsessed with Glory, and then not much after that. It was I used to live in a small town, and yes, our public library had a couple VHSs, but not that many. And for some reason, I remember renting Glory a couple times and being like, well, I guess I'm renting Glory this week. I don't know why it was my go-to movie, but it's free. The library movies were free. The other rentals I had to go pay for. So anytime I was at the library, I remember renting it at least more than once. So I think I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times. Easily. And I don't know, getting into the action of it. I remember watching it with a friend, and we were really interested in the action or the history of it. It feels like you're learning, but also you're watching an action movie at the same time. But it's not the kind of action movie where your parents come in the room and go, "You can't watch that." RoboCop is far too violent for you. It's not one of those. So this is historical, so it feels like you're learning. And you really are learning, because you're learning about something that actually happened, a real set of troops. Going onto the internet and just doing a brief Google search, you'll find I found contradicting evidence to just how historically accurate or inaccurate this movie is. I've read an article that claims it's incredibly historically accurate, and I've read another article that claims it's incredibly historically inaccurate. And neither one of them are necessarily from a source that I've ever been familiar with before, but they seem to both really know what is going on with the Civil War or history in general. And they can't seem to agree on whether or not this movie got it right. So what I would say to them, I can't really whisper on here because I don't really use a microphone, but I have pretend I'm whispering, but I have something to say to the people out there who are worried about historical accuracies or inaccuracies in Glory. It's called Based on a True Story. And I know this phrase has it's really sort of blown people away. That films are not 100% historically accurate all the time. That we live in this world where, oh my God, do you mean they made something up? Or something was created that wasn't there before, or they changed something slightly to make it more cinematic, or shot it in a different way so that it was a little bit more heartwarming than it would have been naturally. Or yeah, they do that all the time. As much as as much as I didn't want to get into the debate with the Sound of Freedom people, when they were debating, when people were coming at Sound of Freedom, who didn't like, I don't like conservative movies. I'm like, I don't, I'm not a fan either. But when you're coming at it for, historical inaccuracies, I always like to bring up the movie Fly Away Home. which is a lovely movie about a father and a daughter who just want to help some geese that are stranded, migrate. So two of them team up and find a way to literally fly the geese, to encourage the geese to fly home. And it's bullshit, actually. It's based on a book called Father Goose, and he doesn't have a daughter. They created Anna Paquin out of thin air. Out of thin fucking air, they made this dude a father, and they created an entire character that doesn't exist just for the purposes of the movie. So, and Fly Away Home is a well-reviewed, critically acclaimed movie that parents like to have their kids watch because it's nice and safe, and it's, oh my God, they're saving the birds. Yeah, she's not real. There is no actual human equivalent to Anna Paquin's character. And there's so many instances like this throughout films, based on a true story, where you're like, okay, so it is based on a true story. But it is not actually a true story. Like 100%, where they went through and made sure that they were like recreating the historical moments beat by beat. So just embrace the fact that you have these actors doing these roles. Great actors, by the way. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Andre Braugher. Just all three of them turning in just fantastic work. We've got Carrie Elways in here doing surprisingly solid dramatic work for somebody who's coming pretty much hot off of Princess Bride, And then we have Matthew Broderick. And I've addressed this before with some of the other movies that he's been in that I've reviewed. I'm not a fan of Matthew Broderick. I don't get Matthew Broderick. Like, I don't conceptually understand what it is about Matthew Broderick that other people go, oh, he's a good actor. Oh, he has depth. He has charm. He has wit. He's funny. I frequently do not see that from him. And I think in Glory, he's out of his depth. I think he doesn't have the dramatic weight behind him. He's only a few years away from Ferris Bueller, by the way. So this is a little bit, imagining him in this role is a little bit like how I was asked in 2024 to believe that Gabriel LaBelle was Lorne Michaels. I was like, wasn't he just running a snack shack? I know that's kind of unfair to have those comparisons in your career, but if Hollywood is seeing you as something and your previous roles are playing a high school student and a high school student in The Fabelmans and Snack Shack, and then you jump from that to being a executive producer of the longest running TV series, I'm going to need a role in between those to like pull you out of high school before suddenly I would expect somebody to hand you a TV series, So do I think Gabriel LaBelle is a good actor? And sure. I had a really hard time wrapping my head around him being Lorne Michaels, though. And here, Matthew Broderick he doesn't feel like he has the gravitas for this role. He doesn't feel like he has any sort of understanding. Part of that is, as he admits throughout the course of the movie, a lot of this time when you got these sort of promotions, it was who you knew, who your father was. And he uses that sort of nepotism to remind people. He's like, well, I'm going to write to my father, and he's going to, tell Lincoln, and, like he knows people, right? He likes to remind people that he knows people, and that's then why he got here, why he has, because he has the education or whatever that he needs to be able to get here, but he doesn't have necessarily the military know-how or the strength or the prowess. Although he sees a lot of battles in this and fights and a lot of horrific things and somehow survives. So And it's about this regiment that he puts together where he becomes the leader of an all black regiment that is fighting against the Confederates for their freedom. And that, I think, is the takeaway. I think if we're going to talk about Black History Month and why we should talk about it, it's the recognition that uh, black men fought for their own freedom. Did we give it to them as the follow-up question, which could be explored in like another movie about Reconstruction or movies about the civil rights movement? I mean, like there are other movies to follow up Glory with, but no, the fact that that men joined in on the fight, believing that this would bring them a better tomorrow. I think that's the takeaway. You know, is that there were people who really did do this. Now, whether or not it's these specific soldiers or these specific actors representing them, I don't know. You know, how how much did we paint Broderick's character as being, you know, this angelic force of good, or any of his other men? You know, I don't know. You know, how much do we dodge racism in this movie or lean into it? You know, it feels like it's like walking a thin line all the time, and it's trying to be like, well, we have to show some of it, but we don't want to show too much of it. We want to be able to have everybody see this movie. We don't really want to be like a hard R. We like to be like a PG-13 so that everybody can come see this. So we can have like the most money at the box office. And that's when people get kind of concerned. That's when Hollywood executives come into play and they go, actually, could you not do that so that we'd like to be able to make some money at the box office? You know, we'd like to, that PG-13 rating looks pretty sweet. Um, so, you know, too many cooks in the kitchen that can affect Glory. So overall, I think Glory is it's a nice movie to show, to use historical, at least like this is kind of what it was like, you know. This is, but do remember, based on a true story, not a true story, based on a true story. This is not claiming to be 100% historically accurate. This is written not just for educational purposes or representational purposes, but also for entertainment purposes, which kind of makes you question, what about this is entertaining? I guess it's the fighting spirit. It's the rousing feeling that you get from seeing the soldiers getting to do what they want to do. And then you ask yourself, well, why? Like, why am I here? Well, it's because you're being like slowly emotionally manipulated by Edward Zwick the whole movie, and the fantastic score this movie has. This movie has a great score. Like, objectively, that's the one thing I'm not willing to like back down on at all. I'm willing to have conversation after conversation about the merits of Glory, but this score would be great on any movie. This is a great score. It just is. To listen to it's I was listening to the movie. I was like, damn, this score is good. Oh my God, I need to listen to the Glory score more. Just the whole movie, I was like, I don't know what's happening with this scene. But the score is amazing. I think the performances are great too. Andre Braugher, recipes, but he's fantastic. Morgan Freeman is great. He's got a great speech. He absolutely kills it. And Denzel Washington is, you know, for some reason, like this is the one, like he gets the Oscar nomination for this, but it is in many ways, it's I know why, I know the scene why it's probably for the scene where he gets whipped, which was a difficult scene to watch. Um, but of the characters, he's maybe the one where you go, but of all of the roles that Denzel has, is Glory the one that you remember? Especially when he's up against Morgan Freeman and Andre Braugher, who sort of both have bigger moments. Denzel's character is painted early on as being a pain in the ass, and Morgan Freeman calls him out on it finally, and he's just had enough of it, you know. And it's interesting to see that dynamic between the two characters. So, but Denzel's perspective is important because they're all different people. Denzel is not officially like a real person. I found that out throughout the little bit of research that I did on this. He's sort of representational of like another character, but this is not an actual person. One of the few people who are not. So what he's representing is he's representing an idea of, you know, someone who has experienced slavery, escaped it, and is now having the opportunity to, you know, and just his whole experience, his whole, you know, distrust of white men, everything is just sort of comes into play, you know. They read them you know, what'll happen to people if they are caught fighting against the Confederates, and they give the soldiers the opportunity to leave if they want. There are a lot of really interesting beats in this. Unfortunately, um, you know, I mean, just Matthew Broderick, man. That's all I can say is he feels too early for him. While Matthew Broderick was never a member of the Brat Pack, and that distinction doesn't really mean anything, it feels like that highlights the sort of youth of it, and it feels like he's almost like an unofficial member somehow, without ever doing the same sort of movies, I guess you could say, and sort of like being tangentially connected. And he doesn't have the dramatic gravitas needed for this role. And I would have recast him. I would have cast somebody else in this role other than Matthew Broderick. I mean, it's if you're a huge fan of him, it's an interesting development tool because he has some scenes that work, but he has a lot of scenes that don't work. Especially that opening scene, that letter writing scene is just God. Opening the movie, I was like, oh fuck me, Matthew Broderick. That was my reaction at the opening of the movie when Matthew Broderick is like reading off text like he's writing a letter. I was like, oh God. Please don't let the whole movie be this. Please don't ruin my memories of glory. And he has a couple of scenes that are fine. He has a lot of scenes where he's reading dialogue. And I'm like, you have no idea how to do this, do you? Like, you're still learning. You're still figuring out. Anyway, I know Matthew Broderick fans are just upset, but I don't think that many Matthew Broderick fans clicked on in Glory and Black History Month looking for Matthew Broderick representation. If you do, this is not the month for that. This was supposed to be talking about glory and the Civil War and, you know, fighting for the right to not be slaves, and then leaving you with the question of, did we ever make good on that promise as we continue to run from DEI like it's a burning building and blame Black people for helicopter plane crashes that we have no actual reasonable knowledge that even existed, that they were even in a tower. We just want to casually suggest that maybe that was the reason, and that these people have not been getting jobs based on merit, but solely based on DEI. That just calling into question everything that's ever happened, that, well, they can't possibly be as good as the white men, right? That's the question now. That's why we're eliminating DEI, is because we couldn't fathom a world in which these people are actually smart and qualified for the jobs in which they're appointed. So I'll leave you with that, because as we watch people fight and die for their rights and glory, aren't they still having to fight for their same for rights? And now, anyway, the audio description is really good. It captures the violence. Some of it I was like, is that a little too violent of a description? Because I remember watching this as a kid and I was not very much into violence, but there was a scene where it says his head gets blown off. And I was like, I don't know if when I think of head gets blown off, I think of like the head exploding, like totally from the body. I think he probably just got shot in the head, but because I don't remember seeing Glory. That's part of the reason that I remember liking Glory is because I felt like it embraced the level of violence that I was able to take in that age range. Because I was very much into cartoons and kids movies and stuff all the way up until like 10 or 11. Like I didn't really venture too far out of my comfort zone. Then I started watching movies like Jurassic Park, which had some deaths in it and some violence and breaching slowly. Plus, I had a friend that showed me Terminator 2 in the midst of me, watching Saturday morning cartoons and everything and um, Disney movies and stuff. He really wanted to watch Terminator 2 and that changed. I was shook. I hadn't seen anything like it before. My parents kept me away from everything that was like that. And suddenly I was like, what the fuck? So, and I wasn't here for it. So, yeah, I don't think I would have run into Saving Private Ryan, for example, at the age that I was running towards Glory because it would have been too much for me. Like I didn't see Apocalypse Now in this age range. So, Glory for some reason ended up being a movie that I could watch. So I think the violence here is not quite like head gets blown off. I think it's probably just shot in the head. But there are character descriptors, and it does the old fashioned thing where it tries to describe people without, and it does say like a black man and a black man or a white man. I mean, it actually labels what people are, but it tries to describe them until their names are. So you'll get people who are like labeled as being the whatever. I can't even remember what these physical distinctions are of these people. Middle aged, I think, is how they call Morgan Freeman until he gets a name. Um, so they use physical descriptors for them until somebody gives them a name, which is kind of a little bit maddening at some points. It's maddening when it goes on for too long. That's the thing about that rule. That's how I feel about that rule. Is I like that rule, but there has to be a point at which you go, no, it's too long. I remember watching a TV show where there was a character that kept getting referred to for multiple episodes until they got a name as the man with the hat and the trench coat or something like that. And it was like for multiple episodes. And I was like, is this ever going to get a name? Is somebody going to say this? Do this? Please say his name, please. And I always bring up the fact that America Ferrera never got a name in Barbie for the entirety of Barbie, even though she has a name in the script. Even though her name is Gloria, her character's name is Gloria, they never say it in the audio description because not once did anybody actually utter the word Gloria. So simply because it wasn't written, because nobody ever stopped and said, Gloria, we need you. They just never said it. So the whole movie she's described either as somebody's mother or as a secretary, which is really demeaning to one of the most powerful female characters in that movie. And nobody caught it. So at a certain point, yeah, you gotta flip, you gotta figure out a name for these people. And Glory, by the end of the movie, has a name for all the main characters because at some point you learn their names. It's just not right away. So I don't know, whatever. You get better character descriptions in the beginning. It's just don't push that for too long. So I like Glory. It's not my favorite war movie. Matthew Broderick brings it down for me a little bit. It's got a great score. Now I'm so confused as to whether or not it's historically accurate or inaccurate. I don't even know if it's a great representation now for Black History Month because I knew going into it that it was a movie that sort of had a little bit of a white savior complex with Matthew Broderick's character being the central figure of the movie. However, I would argue that he's the least memorable thing about the movie, and when you actually get into it, you'll be far more impressed by the work that Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, and Andre Braugher are doing than would be by him. So, I don't know. If you don't like this for Black History Month, let me know in the comments. Whatever. I'm open to that. But the fact is, Black people fought for the rights to be free in the Civil War. That's an actual thing. And how they got there, the little details and everything, that can be historically debated by people who have degrees in history. And even they don't seem to be able to agree, or maybe that's the problem with the internet is you can put whatever the fuck you want on the internet and then just say you have a degree in I went to Harvard and I got a degree in a doctorate in history and movie is it's garbage. The South actually won that war. I don't know. But revisionist history, right? So yeah, I'm gonna give Glory a B plus. I think it's a good movie. I think there are better war movies. But that score though, that score slaps. That's the one thing I'm not moving on. Well, that and the fact that Denzel, Morgan, and Andre all give good performances. Although, if I had to give a nomination to one of them, it wouldn't have been Denzel. And honestly, Morgan, you can say the same thing. Like Morgan Freeman has a lot of excellent performances. This might be Andre Braugher's shot at an Oscar nomination, like arguably. So I might swap that around if I ever get to when I get to this year and I do by rewriting the Oscars. I might pop Andre Braugher in there for that. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And remember, diversity, equity, and inclusivity are not bad words. And I'll see you guys on the other side.